Welcome to South Bay Buzz, the podcast. I'm your host, Megan Libri, and I'm very excited to introduce you to my friend and parenting expert, Bryana Kappadakunnel.
Thank you, Megan. You got it right.
Yes, I did have to practice the last name, even though I've known you for 5 years. You have a brilliant, beautiful, long last name.
Yes, I do. 13 full letters.
13 full letters.
Yes, I will not bore you, but I did have to write a song to teach my children how to spell our last name, but I am not going to sing it here today.
Okay, but can we maybe get a little bit of some singing at some point on this podcast?
But if it's relevant,
appropriate and relevant.
yes.
Yes. For those that don't know you, you do have a beautiful voice.
Oh,
And
thank you.
Okay. Before we launch into our personal history and how we know each other, would you please let everybody know who you are and what you do and your connection to the South Bay?
Sure. So I'm Bryana Kappadakunnel, and I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. Mateo, he's 7, and Giovanni, but we call him Jojo, is 4. And I guess I'm local now to the South Bay. I've been here since 2016, but I'm actually born and raised in Pittsburgh. I think you know that.
I do know that.
I talk about that all the time when I'm dropping my yinzers and my other, inappropriate language. And I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in infant, family, early childhood mental health, as well as perinatal mental health. For several years, I ran South Bay Mommy and Me, which was an incredible Mommy and Me program that followed children and their mothers from birth to 24 months. And I really wanted that program to have a different energy than traditional Mommy and Me, which is a great space to come and connect and talk to each other and get some advice, which is fabulous, which we absolutely include. But I also wanted it to be a space where we could learn about ourselves more deeply, because I believe that it is motherhood and parenthood that just really reveals within us the wounds that we have not yet healed. And if we are not creating community around, reflecting on that and getting to know ourselves better, then we end up putting it onto the kids. I so desperately want our children to grow up in a world where they are liberated from the baggage that their parents carry. And I say that with so much compassion as a parent who carries a lot of baggage. And in my experience as a therapist, I learned that parents tend to carry a lot of baggage. And a lot of the baggage that we carry isn't even ours, right? It's from the generation before us, and they were carrying baggage from the generation before them. So what I have found in my conversations as a therapist, I started doing therapy in 2011, was that we're so desperate to heal those wounds and the brokenness that comes from that, but we don't know how. That's why I created South Bay Mommy and Me. Let's get ourselves set up with a good start right from the very beginning and create community amongst mothers. This work is so much more fulfilling when you're not doing it by yourself. Create a common language for reflective work, learning how to understand ourselves better and tap into the child's mind and understand what the child is experiencing better. That's, in a nutshell, what reflective work is. Creating a common language around that and just inspiring us to go out into the world. And we talked about pacifiers and we talked about sleep training and we talked about how to feed the kids some freaking solids and what to do when they refuse to eat, which are all great conversations. But you know what else we talked about? We talked about missing our mothers. We talked about not being mothered. We talked about deeper problems with our spouses and our partners. More than just, I hate my husband, how do I stop hating him? But the deeper issues, we're not aligned on values. We have cultural mismatches. How do we work on that together? And that's so sacred to me, to be able to create a space to do that. Now, I did end up having to close South Bay Mommy and Me because I'm one single person. And I couldn't possibly continue to work at the level that I was working. I was teaching 10 classes a week. I was seeing 15 clients a week, and I was writing a book. And I had a 2-year-old and I had a 4-year-old. And I was like, baby girl gonna burn out. She's gonna burn out real quick.
Yes, very quick.
I really wanted to lean into what I do with Conscious Mommy. And I figured I could take the magic of what is created in South Bay Mommy and Me and bring it online. And that's what I've done. And my book, Parent Yourself First, yay, released in January. And that's just been such an exciting gift to be able to get that book out there. And really, I mean, that book is just filled with stories of, not direct stories. I don't break confidentiality, but the heart of that book are the families from the South Bay that I have been working with. And, we don't really talk a lot about our struggles and hardships. And so because we don't talk about it, we feel alone in it. We feel like we're the only ones. And now there's this really great book out there that helps us not feel alone, helps us feel like, yeah, this is me. I've experienced this too. And there's a way through it. So I'm very grateful. My connection to the South Bay is that the South Bay gave me a platform, and really they gave me the space to practice and work on developing what I believe when it comes to parenting and mother wellness and child-parent relationships. Honestly, if it was not for the South Bay giving me the chance to get up and talk for 15, 20 minutes several times a day for year after year after year, I don't think I'd have a theory as fleshed out as I've developed. So my heart is always with the South Bay. The best. We live in the best place ever.
I would wholeheartedly agree. That is a beautiful summary. Not only the work that you've done, but your passion and your vision and how really you have created this path for yourself, but you have always brought parents along with you on that journey. I remember a time in Mommy and Me where I think you even first talked to us about the idea of that transition between, like, it's not just the baby that's being born, it's the mom that's being born. And then I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the word, but it's like mom.
Matrescence.
Yes, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and just how you talk to us about things, and then to see it evolve not only into like probably your practice, but then to the book. And it's really incredible.
Thank you.
So we first met when my daughter was 4 months old, which was January 2020. And at that time, I had really been going through it. I was navigating postpartum anxiety and depression. I was having trouble, but everybody was like, here's the deal. You've got to go to Mommy and Me. It'll be great. And I looked to see what was local in the South Bay. And I think the way that you had shared your philosophy and practice really touched my heart. And I got my friend Alexa to come with me, and her baby was like 3 weeks old, I think
remember,
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we did that infant session with you. And then I stayed on for the next, and 2 weeks in, the pandemic began. COVID hit and we transitioned. Which was wild. So when you think back to that, especially that time, what do you remember most about it? Especially that online and having to be physically separated, and how that impacted our community then and now, like what those impacts have been.
Well, I mean, I just remember how much we were being asked to pivot, and like how literally overnight we were asked to pivot. So like as the concerns of COVID were starting to develop, and I'm with new moms and new babies who tend to already be a little bit more heightened and feel more vulnerable, and whether they have a PMAD, a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder or not, most new moms tend to feel a little anxious. And I think when you're being told there's a global pandemic that like nobody has immunity to, the anxiety is even heightened. And so I remember feeling just like a disbelief as people were like, yeah, we're not coming in. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Are we this serious? I was confused because, like everybody
was confused.
We had no idea what was happening, and we were not being given any kind of clear guidance other than just like, distance and mouth cover. And then I remember when we got the news, like we're in shutdown. I have all these women that are looking for support and now I need to shut down. What do I do? Because that was I need to support these women. I do not know how to get through a pandemic, but what do I know how to do? I can hold space and keep us connected and together in a time where isolation was the main agenda, right? Isolate, hunker down. I know as a mental health professional and as somebody who grew up in an emotionally isolated environment, long-term isolation or without a clear closing door, right? An undetermined amount of isolation is going to wreak havoc on mental health. I already was concerned about new mothers who feel so isolated in early motherhood when you don't have a pandemic. Sometimes the only thing that brought new mothers out of their house in an entire week was my mommy and me class, or maybe the doctor's appointments that they were going to, or maybe a walk if they could get it. Otherwise, what I was hearing was a lot of women just kind of home all day for 8, 9, 10 hours alone with an infant. And then they're just expected to smile and act like it's completely normal. And then we lay on top of that a pandemic that keeps us all separated. And now we're home with our partners if we have a partner, and we're navigating being fully together with somebody while also working and also having children. I was like genuinely concerned. What is this going to look like long term for all of our mental health? And so for me, it was obvious, got to keep the community together. I had never used Zoom before. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it was a ton of experimentation, but I figured it out. I was like, I can lead mommy and me here. I just need everybody to be muted. And now I'm going to subject people for a prolonged period of time to just my singing voice. And I'm not going to hear their singing voices, because the Catholic choir girl in me, yes, wants to hear the voices. I enjoy I much enjoy the voices.
Yes.
But, I was like, it's worth it. It's worth it enduring that. And I also leaned on the research. I know that if children are having like an interactive experience on the screen, it's not detrimental in the way that just putting them in front of a screen is to their cognitive well-being. So I was like, I think we can do this and we can still give us a sense of community. That was a really difficult time. It was exciting because I think it opened the door that we are seeking community and connection, and we are so flexible. We will find a way to still be engaged with each other, even when something is pushing us apart.
Mm-hmm.
It just showed a lot of resilience to the human spirit while also showing how vulnerable we are and how community really is everything. Having your people is everything.
You did a really wonderful job of doing that. I remember a little baby like bonking on my keyboard, but hey, she was involved.
Like the duck.
Yes, the duck. I know. She loved the duck. I did also want to share with you that I went back and looked at my personal Instagram because that's really where South by Buzz started. It was first my personal Instagram was Small Biz Cheerleader, and then the professional was Small Biz before it became South by Buzz. And one of the first business spotlights I did was showcasing a beautiful graphic you had made for how I'm managing my mental stress with the outside chaos of what was happening with COVID. I don't know if I ever shared that with you, but you were one of the early folks that really was part of the movement to support local and early days of South by Buzz. So thank you for that.
That's on.
For you, I know you mentioned the wanting to avoid burnout with South Bay Mommy and Me, parenting and all the things. So for you, when was that aha moment when it came to creating Conscious Mommy and expanding your parenting resources?
Oh my God. I love that you asked this. So there was quite a journey. I'm not going to take you down the whole thing, but I had read Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed, which do you know Glennon Doyle is local?
I know. Can I tell you?
We're talking about it. We're on Glennon Doyle. Glennon, we watch show.
Glennon and Abby.
Glennon and Abby.
It's actually on my big hopes bucket list. So one day they will be on this podcast one day because they are South Bay locals now.
I
So,
know. Okay. Anyway,
all right, we're
so
putting it out there in the
putting it
universe.
out there, manifesting.
One day, one day.
And Amanda, we want the whole week, and sister, we want the whole we can do hard things. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So I had just read Untamed, and that book really just cut me open, felt like. And then I spent the whole summer thinking about what is my soul really calling me to do? And then it was honestly like a pouring from the gods. And I immediately was like, Conscious Mommy. I had the entire branding. I got the website, and I built the whole website in a day and a half. Took me 30 hours. I literally slept, and then I worked for 30 hours.
Oh my gosh. I know that.
2 15-hour days. I created my entire concept. I created my freebie, right, to start building my newsletter. I was like, I'm going to do this. I know exactly what I want out of Conscious Mommy. I need to start taking what I've been teaching in the South Bay, and I need to start putting it out there in a more global way. And that's what I did. I started with the Let Go series, where I created 4 classes: let go of your inner control freak, let go of your triggers, let go of your people pleaser, and let go of your past hurts. And those became like my foundational parent yourself first teachings, if you will. I created Becoming the Conscious Parent You Never Had, which was an 8-week cohort program. I ran several cohorts of that, and it all just like naturally evolved. And I created more one-off workshops based off of what I saw people wanting. And when I realized that, okay, this is something that can grow, but I don't want to just be somebody who sells courses. No shade, nothing wrong with people who sell courses, but that's not my energy. I want to connect with the people. I want to hear what you're really struggling with in real time, and not hope that a 5-minute clip can solve the problem, because I know that is not what solves problems. What solves our problems is when we feel connected, safe, and supported with each other. So I was like, what did South Bay Mommy and me accomplish that courses don't? Is community and connection. So I built an online community. We're building an online membership program that I priced very affordably. I did not want price to be something that kicks somebody out, right? And I even work, if people are like, I can't afford it, I'm like, what can you afford? Fine, here's a coupon. Take it. I don't care, because it's not about that. I need to keep my lights on, but it's really not about that. It's more about bringing people together who want to have these conversations, who want to feel supported, who want to learn and grow. And I get to be a part of that, and I get to encourage you and share my heart with you and just show you how freaking amazing you are and how awesome you are. And then maybe offer you a little encouragement to reflect in areas where you could grow, not from a hoity-toity place, but from a because I love you place. And I care about you. And I know that that's why you're here, because we are all trying to learn and grow together. And I mean, that's really been the evolution of it. But it was really like Glennon Doyle's book. I'm sitting by the pool. Our Lord and Savior, Barbara Streisand, spoke to me. And I was like, okay, here we go. We are going with it. So there we go. Just the vision. Just the vision of it. She is my personal Lord and Savior. Always and forever. The one and only Queen Diva. Sorry. I have this like vision of you reading a book, like, I don't know, like a cocktail. Yeah. And I just saw like Barbara Streisand's like head in the clouds, like an angel, like wakes you up, honey, wake up. I got to go and do this. Amazing.
When you said the piece about like what lights me up, I did this manifesting vision board earlier this year, and the card I pulled was what lights up your soul. And that has been a guiding force. So I love hearing people's little origin stories with that, because it is so inspiring.
Yeah.
For people that haven't taken your course or just are maybe getting familiar with the term, what does conscious parenting mean?
So I think it means a lot of different things to a lot of people. But to me, conscious parenting means we are being aware of ourselves, our own triggers. We have an awareness of how our past influences the way we are showing up in the present moment. We have a commitment, really, to being aware of what unmet needs and unresolved wounds we are projecting onto our children. And we make a conscious effort to break those cycles and change those patterns. So, newsflash, I'm a perfectionist, recovering.
I learned that recovering perfectionist term from
I'm
you.
correct. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So, I have to be really mindful of of what I expect from my kiddo, who is really intelligent, bit beyond his age, and I have to be mindful of not putting too much pressure on him to make it perfect. I have to consciously accept mistakes, not as a moral failure or some, irreversible character flaw, which is what my anxiety and my buried shame wants me to believe that mistakes are. And I instead have to be brave and encounter that with a ton of courage so that my kid does not have to carry that burden. That, in a nutshell, is what conscious parenting is. And the outcome of it, I think, is what is most intriguing to me. Because children that get to be raised for who they are without all of the projected fantasies and visions and ideas that we want to put on them, these children get to grow up in a more liberated way. They get to have more empathy for their own shortcomings while also having an appreciation of their strengths. I didn't have that growing up. I was made to feel like there was something wrong with me if I thought I did something well, right? That's selfish and conceited. These kids get to be more invested in other people, seeing other people grow and have an acceptance and a sense of inclusion with other people. And I think that conscious parenting has the potential to build a safer, more empathic, more connected world just by our work that we are doing as parents. That's the thing that we get to control. There's a lot happening around us that, especially as parents, is really out of our control. But what is in our control is how we understand ourselves and how we choose to understand these children. And when we can get that right, and when we get it wrong, and we can repair, which is also an important part of conscious parenting, even better. Yeah.
It's a transformational way of thinking and learning it early from you and then being able to practice it, now read about it with your book and also be able to talk to friends and my husband about it. There's just so much growth that I experience not only for myself personally, but I am and I continue to become the parent that I wanted. And my parents, wonderful, love them. They have wonderful things. And there's certain things that would have been lovely to have experienced more. I think one in particular that I feel like is a millennial and maybe other generations for sure is just that act of repair and that saying, I'm sorry and acknowledging that. I don't know if that was really common for many folks
No.
for our generation of growing up.
No.
And the fact that is like a active part of our everyday,
Yeah.
not just for my kids, but for me.
Yeah.
It also gives you permission to be like, yeah, you're still making mistakes. You're still alive. So
Yep.
you're human.
Yep.
We know the weight of what it takes to break these generational cycles. It's heavy work and it's conscious work that you have to take part in every day. When the work does feel heavy, what are some things that you do to help yourself stay grounded?
Coming in with the hard questions today, Maggie.
I mean, I buried it a little bit in here, but
okay, so
there's more to come.
hold on. Buckle up. Buckle up, Buttercup. Okay, so things that I do to feel grounded when things get hard. So I've been in somatic therapy for the last year.
Can you tell folks what that is?
Somatic experiencing, it's a form of treatment for trauma, but I guess you could benefit from it even if you don't have any trauma, where you learn to listen to your body's cues and your body's way of communicating to you where you are. So if you're in a freeze, stuck state, If you're in a active, I need to flee this situation or I got to fight it out situation, teaches you how to listen to what's happening and then not reenact whatever familiar pattern that you have with your body. So I have a functional freeze and then I numb and then I almost dissociate when I'm stressed out. And it takes me a while to come back into my own body. That is related to my own personal trauma, but it's been really interesting to like not overanalyze it. I did like 19 years of talk therapy. So you overanalyze and you understand why you do all of that. Yeah. But it's a very different thing to like actually feel the physical process and to be in the numb, to be in the freeze, and then find something that feels safe, find something that feels okay, maybe even find something that feels good in the body, and then find the regulation through there so that my system isn't just getting stuck in dysregulation, but that I'm actively teaching my system how to find something that feels safe and okay. So that's been my personal process. I actually started getting trained in somatic experiencing. So I'm in the 3-year training program and I've been doing it with clients. And my clients are like, I don't know what kind of weird voodoo shit you are doing with me, girl, but it was working. And I'm
Yes.
like, I know, like it's kind of insane because we're just like talking bobbleheads all the time. And I think I do blame a little bit of like myself, even being on the internet and people like me making motherhood a little too intellectual, making parenthood a little too intellectual, and making it like very intensive and keeping us in our heads and getting us out of the body. And so that's what I'm working on now for myself. I walk every day. That's really good. I do 10,000 steps every day. Been doing that for several years. I dance, pole dance, sing, play my guitar. I started taking guitar lessons. It's really a lot of body work and soul work. What brings me joy? That is how I get myself grounded. Everybody's going to look a little bit different. I just feel like as a mom, everything is so predictable in my life and rote and routine. Like I like predictability, but like I also need spontaneity. And creativity really helps me access that. And it does, it produces, it's like preventative in a way for too much dysregulation in the system. And maybe we can think about that too. Like, what if we thought about ways to prevent ourselves from being so dysregulated by prioritizing our joy, prioritizing what makes us freaking happy, right? Rather than like, well, I got to get to the gym and I got to do exercise and I got to wear this size pants and I got to eat this food. Eat the food that that lights you up. Like maybe that is more important in this season of life, that you're actively choosing things that light you up so that you're not so burnt out and weighed down by parenthood, right? I don't want parents to be burnt out by parenthood. And yet I know we are. I know that the Surgeon General reported at the end of, was it 2024? He reported that parenting is bad for your mental health and parents are in a mental health crisis. And you know who's in a mental health crisis if parents are in a mental health crisis?
Kids.
The kids. The kids. And guess what? That's no freaking surprise. We've known that the kids are in a mental health crisis for the last 10 years. We've been talking about it. We know the kids aren't okay. And now finally, it took us 10 years to be like, it's because the parents aren't okay. Well, why aren't we doing okay? Because we're weighed down. We are exhausted. We are stretched thin. We barely recovered from this pandemic. We're in economic turmoil. Things are challenging. Adulting is freaking hard. And we are exhausted and we are strung out and we're working nonstop. And we lose community. We lose access to parts of ourselves that bring us joy. And that is the stuff that we have to reclaim, I think, at least. And that's what I've been working on with myself. So
Thank you for sharing. That's really cool to know that you're pursuing the somatic healing.
I know.
It's really
Very
fascinating.
excited bringing that to parents
bringing
and
that to
children.
and children.
To child parent somatic.
I thank you for sharing that.
Your health, your peace, your space to grow, Orange Door Spaces is designed for thinkers, healers, and writers, like offering peaceful studios, bright lounges, and private rooms where inspiration flows. Whether you're journaling your next book or leading a breathwork session, Orange Door Spaces has the space for your mind and message. Start your wellness journey and visit Orange Door Spaces today.
I really want to talk about your book.
Yay.
Yes, Parent Yourself First.
Mm-hmm.
I was at your beautiful book signing event at Pages in Manhattan Beach, one of the most precious bookstores on the planet.
It's so fun there.
They're wonderful. And it was a very vibrant, excited audience. It was full house.
I couldn't believe it. There was like almost 100 people there.
You couldn't believe it. I could.
I literally told them, I was like, oh, I think maybe 20, maybe 30 people are coming. And
standing room only, peeps.
That's why it was standing room only. There were people literally standing at the door. I could not believe it. I was overwhelmed by how many people showed up for this book launch.
It was incredible. The questions were fabulous that night. Why do you feel like Parent Yourself First is resonating so deeply with people?
Well, I think that the alternative, which is to try to change the child, is played out and is not working. I think people are realizing, I think we're waking up to that if I want to get my kiddo to change their behaviors or to express their emotions better, really the only way for that to happen consistently, reliably, and predictably is if we are able to model that ourselves. And if we are not able to model for our children how we want them to be, then we have some healing to do. I also think that because of all those issues that we were just talking about, like the burnout and things, parents realize they need help. They need support. So many parents will tell me, I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to have my dad's anger issues. And yet, in that moment, when I saw red, that was all that came out of me, my dad or my mom. And I hate myself for it. And I judge myself for it. And they go into a guilt and shame spiral. Well, what if we dealt with the guilt and shame by creating more self-compassion and more awareness of like, of course you did that. Duh. You don't know, what else would you do? Eventually, our survival systems and the ways that we learn to survive will kick in and will take care of us, right? So you yelling at your kid in ways that your parents screamed at you is not a character flaw or a moral failure. It is just you doing what your system knows to do to try to be safe. So if we can honor that and have an appreciation for that child within who just wants to feel safe, who just wants to feel seen and heard and understood, and we can create space for that and gentleness around that, automatically then pours in to what we do for our children. So when our child goes into Target, after you've already had the conversation that we are not buying anything in the toy aisle, and then they make their little feet go to that toy aisle, and throw themselves down onto the ground, and they're very upset that they are not getting that toy. They want it. You can see inside of them the disappointment, right? The hope, the wishful thinking, the desire, and not judge them for it, not shame them for it, not criticize them for it.
You're making me teary just listening to you talk.
It's true, though.
Yeah.
You can really just see the moment for what it is rather than stop embarrassing me.
Yes.
Right? Get out of here. I'm never taking you here again.
Yeah.
Like this, you're never going to get a gift. Right? Oh, you really want it, honey. I know. Oh my gosh, it's so disappointing. Is there one that you really wanted to, get for the holiday or get for your birthday? I can take a photo of it and we can see if you still want it then, my love. My answer's still no, but I'm happy to take a photo of it. Being able to respond like that is not like a script. You don't need an Instagram post to give you a script to tell you what to do. That response comes naturally when you've cared for those little parts of you who are struggling with disappointment, who are struggling with embarrassment and, sadness, right? You've worked on that, then you can hold and make space for that with your child in the way that the kids need. It's a really beautiful process. That's why I think Parent Yourself First really does resonate with people because 1, it works. 2, it's intuitive. And 3, I don't know what 3 is, but it works and it's intuitive. So that's why we're called to it.
Well, maybe I'll add for 3. One thing that I have really appreciated in this is it's allowed me to take responsibility for who I am as a person and who I am as a mom, and give grace and compassion and forgiveness to not only my mom, but her parents and her
Yes.
parents. And talking to my aunt who you met at your book
Yes.
signing, we had a great conversation about what some of these responses and trauma responses have looked like in the past. My mom died 8 years ago. She would say, well, I yell because I was yelled at. And I know I shouldn't yell, but like, it's just what happens. Like, so it's right. So it's like,
she had some awareness.
she has some
just
awareness,
didn't know how to
but didn't know how to stop it. But what I do know is that I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm doing the work.
Yeah.
And I get to change this cycle.
Right. Learning
Love
to
about
appreciate that we're all good and we're all just doing our
Yes,
best.
we are.
And even like your mom, like in that example, that's such a good example of somebody who was a bit more evolved and was on her way to breaking cycles.
Yeah.
To even be able to say, I yell and I don't know why I don't know why I do it. I just know it was done to me and I kind of can't control it. That's halfway there. Right. The hardest part is to just acknowledge that we're yelling, right? Or whatever it is that we're doing.
Right.
To just acknowledge it and acknowledge that it's having an impact.
Yes.
That's the hardest part. And then the next step is recognizing, God, it's coming up and it's coming out. Holy crap,
Yes,
can't stop it. And then the next stage in that self-awareness is it's coming out. It's coming up. And I'm going to try to do something a little different to get it to come out in a different way or to change the way that it comes out. And then I'm going to continue to work on that and recognize when I slip backwards. It's really not linear. It's much more self-awareness is just ever evolving.
Yeah.
And I think that the change part is the second hardest part. But your mom did the heavy lifting of the first hardest part, which is the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave you the gift of a parent who at least noticed what she was doing.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. And I love that. I love that because we're not going to break every cycle. Our kids are going to have some reason to go to therapy.
Yes, exactly. We have to.
We have to have something, something to grow from.
As my mother would say, well, then one day you'll be sitting on a therapist's couch eating bonbons and talking about what I've done.
At least your mom has a sense of humor.
She certainly did. Now, I don't know if I've yet to have some bonbons with my therapist.
I would fully expect you to show up to your next therapy session with a freaking bonbon.
Okay, I will.
Okay, get the bonbon.
Right, I'm bringing bonbons. So I know, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
As we come to the conclusion, for anyone who's feeling overwhelmed and wants to take one step toward a life of more conscious parenting, what's one strategy or one simple practice that they can start doing today after hearing this podcast?
I think the most helpful thing would be to ask yourself this question when you are feeling reactive to your kid. And that question is, what is this about for me? Try to resist the urge to make it about your kid. What is it about is the question. I don't like not feeling listened to. And then I want you to ask yourself, not feeling listened to is hard for me because, and then I want you to fill in the blank until you get to the heart of the matter for you. Until we understand what the wound is that your child's behavior revealed is not yet healed for you. And then the conscious parenting starts.
Chef's kiss. I've just done a chef's kiss. When you reflect on your work here in the South Bay, and let's imagine, if you will, that we're sitting down in 5 years from now.
Oh.
Let's even take it 15 years from now. Yes. What do you hope South Bay mommy and me, conscious mommy, parenting yourself first, and all the other projects that are maybe in the beautiful head of yours, dreaming their dreams? What's the legacy that will be left today for today's parents? And then what's your hope for the generations to come.
The single most important thing that drives me is the child-parent relationship. If all of my work has led to even just one child-parent relationship being safer, being more secure, being built on a parent who accepts themselves, honors and cherishes themselves, and has that same capacity to really see and get their kid, and that child grows up feeling felt by somebody and feeling held by somebody and feeling important to somebody and special to somebody, I've done good work. I've done what I feel called to do and set out to do.
Why don't we let everybody know how they can find you so they can stay in touch?
Yes. Well, best place to learn more about my work and all of my offerings, my book, Parent Yourself First, the Conscious Mommy Community, is going to be at www.consciousmommy.com. I have a weekly newsletter that I write, as well as a weekly blog. So those are free resources. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'm not really a YouTuber, although I have been approached and told that I should do some YouTubing, but like maybe one day YouTube. All of that, Conscious Mommies, where you're going to find me there. When you're really ready to do the work, what I say is get the book, read the book, and then join the community to get the support on how to really implement and embody what this book is inviting you to do so that you can have those transformational, lasting changes that you desire to have. You're already a good parent. Like, I'm not acting like parents aren't good parents. Parents are really good parents. But this is going to take it to the next level so that we can have healthy, functional, secure, long-lasting relationships. And I think that that's maybe something that a lot of us need support on. If we did not have it growing up, we need somebody to hold our hand through the process, right? There's no freaking parenting manual that's going to tell you how to raise a perfect child in any way, but we can hold each other in the process and help ourselves feel safe and comforted and supported through it all.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your heart. And you're living your legacy. I can tell you that already. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review, subscribe here on YouTube, and also wherever you listen to your podcast. That definitely helps our episodes get into the ears and eyes of those in the South Bay. Share it with your friends. And thank you always for being a part of the movement to shop small and support local. We'll see you next time. Ta-da! I use with my kids when they get really upset. You are very, very mad, and very sad.
Have to pound on the door. What was the next part?
Have to pound on the door. Something on the floor.
Pound on the floor. You are oh so very mad, sad. Put that in.
Beautiful. Okay, put in the bloopers.